charged to go do work and go help others. And I've just been very inspired by all the stories, and I hope that you guys are too. But I think it's so important that we spend this time today reflecting and thinking about it, because it's easy to go and do things, but when you think about it, you get smarter and you get stronger and you do a better job. And there's just one story I'm going to tell, and then I'll get into sort of what I really wanted to talk about today. But I read this in an article, and it kind of changed the way I thought about things when I was in college. And a woman had just been to a food pantry, and she had served, and it actually was a soup kitchen, and she had served folks there. And she went back to her class, and she was reflecting on that experience, and she wrote in her journal, "Wow, this was such an amazing experience. I hope my daughter has the same experience too." And that makes a lot of sense. You know, if you've done something that's enjoyable, you want someone else to share it. But then she started to think, what does it mean if my daughter is going to serve at a food pantry also, or at a soup kitchen also? That means there's going to be hungry people when my daughter isn't old enough to do that. And that's not okay. That's not what I want. So that reflection took her experience, which was very enjoyable. She learned a lot. She gained a lot. But it helped her think differently about what she should do. And it sort of formed a course for her in terms of the action that she wanted to take. She wanted to end hunger. She didn't want it to be around when her daughter was grown up enough to serve. So this kind of reflection, I think, is so important because it shapes the action that we take. We all have a lot of things we can do, but what are we going to do? And that's really important. So I really want to talk a little bit about stories. And I want to talk about one kind of story in particular. There's many, many kinds of stories, and people argue, about is there one essential story that all stories kind of boil down to? Are there 5? Are there 7? Whatever. The story that I want to talk about today is the underdog story. Because I think it's a really important one. I think it's really crucial, and because I think it's one of the ones that we love the most. We love the underdog story. We always root for the underdog when it comes to sports. Even in politics, we root for the underdog. When we look for the underdog, we talk about that. It's something that we think about. It's permeated all of our world. There's one underdog in particular that I think is sort of the most beloved underdog of the moment. He just had a big movie come out. It's Harry Potter. So I have to, I see some excitement, that's good. I actually have to admit, I have never read or seen Harry Potter. I know it's horrifying, it's terrible. But I'm interested in Harry Potter because everybody loves him. And I think everybody loves Harry Potter because he succeeds and he's strong against all odds. And I know from friends and others that have filled me in a little bit, there's the sort of evil character, the one who will not be named, as most people call him. But Harry's not scared. Harry will call him by his name, which I'm going to totally butcher, which is Voldemort. Is that right? Yeah. Voldemort? Okay. I have to read these books and go see it. But he's not scared. He will name this guy, and despite a lot of setbacks, Harry continues to push forward. And this, for thousands of pages and hours of movie, Harry is fighting this because he believes in it. And so I think that he's this classic underdog story that we've all sort of embraced and taken on. And I also think that Harry and his story shows sort of some of the central characters of any underdog story. And one is you have to have someone like Harry, sort of a hero, the guy that's the driving force of the story. You also have to have some evil, like Voldemort. Okay, I'll just say the evil guy. You have to have an evil guy, right? So you also have to have that. Then you have sort of everybody else, the bystanders. But the bystanders are really broken into 2 different camps. You have the people that don't believe and don't think it's possible, and then you have the people that are believers, and that's usually like a small group. And maybe by the end of the movie or the story or the saga, that group will grow and they'll come to realize what the power that Harry had and that the underdog has. So there's another underdog that I'm very fond of that I work with every day, and that's the penny. The penny is also an underdog. No one, sort of present, myself included, thinks that 1 penny has any value. And in fact, 1 penny doesn't really have any value. You can't reach in your pocket, go out onto Broadway, and actually do much with a penny. You will not buy a cup of coffee. You will not buy a stick of gum. You will not buy any candy, nothing. So the penny is an underdog. We don't really believe in it. There's a lot of people that want to get rid of the penny. It's inconvenient. But if you have some people that believe, and you have people come together, and they start to collect pennies, and they work together, and I go to my neighbors and you go to your neighbors, you bring all those pennies together and it actually adds up. And I'm standing in the school and telling the story as if you all don't know that. You guys do the penny harvest every single year. You've seen those pennies add up. They're heavy, but they also have a huge amount of value. And one of my favorite teachers that I work with, she was writing an 11-word story about the penny. This is an activity that we had this year. And I can't remember the precise 11 words, but basically she said, I'm a penny. Don't forget, I'm closely related to the dollar. And I think it really speaks to the value of the penny. When you work together and you bring them together, you have value. And so in the penny harvest, schools do this. All of the money that they collect, they get to give out. They decide which organizations or issues or charities they want to give back to. And one of the things that also happens during that process, remember that sort of other group, there's the believers and the non-believers? The non-believers become believers because they, at the beginning, said, what do you want pennies for? Sure, take them. They don't mean anything. But then they see all the work that you've done, and they see the power that you had when you came together, and that sort of brings that together, and they become a believer in the penny. I think the penny harvest is one example. I think service in general is an underdog story. I think that we often think about all the things we can't do. We can't end litter by ourselves. We can't do it. Like one person's not going to end litter. But when you start to talk about it, or you take that first step and you pick something up and you share that idea, it's what Stacy was talking about, it becomes sticky. And other people might want to do it. And then you can inspire others, and you have to think about the ways in which your actions can help inspire others. And so when you look at all the problems that we have, they're more like Voldemort, or whatever. And they feel equal, they feel huge, they feel incomparable. But you really have to find the Harry Potter yourself. You have to figure out, what can I do? How can I continue to believe and bring others alongside me? That's the story, I think, of Harry Potter. I'll have to read it myself. That's the story of the penny harvest, and I think that's a story that each of you all can really write in this next chapter as you're going into your social action project. You have the chance to tell your own underdog story, so thank you.